then the Director of Research, Innovation and Enterprise, Director Modeling, Director of Institute of Governance and Development Studies. Then we have today's moderator, the Chairman of the Regulatory Committee, please welcome our presenter, and most importantly, the Vice Chancellor of the study. Kindly remain standing as we are going to proceed to take all the items that we normally do. Very distinguished guests here present, with the kind permission of the Vice Chancellor, let me quickly invite two individuals to take us through opening prayers.
We pray for God's protection and blessings from the beginning of this event to its end. Thank you.
Our Most High God, we thank you this morning. We're grateful for the beautiful day that you have granted to us today from the beginning. We thank you because you have gathered us for very important university activity. The Inaugural Lecture of our brother, Professor Jideofor Patrick. We know that you are here. We know your presence is mighty here to guide us, to lead us, to help us in all the ways that we go. Grant him wisdom as he will do the delivery, and let that which he will speak about, let it make impact unto us in our lives. And let it also help the nation and the humanity and the large.
Our dear Vice Chancellor, very distinguished guests here present, let me quickly mention that we are here at the Nasarawa State University's Assembly Hall for the 46th Inaugural Lecture. And the 46th of our series is going to be presented by Professor Jideofor Adibe. As always, chair for the very senior management staff who is the number 2 citizen of the university, now the Vice Chancellor Academy, Professor Abdullahi Sadon Odibo, sitting in as Vice Chancellor and chairing this occasion. Coincidentally for us, Professor Abdullahi Odibo is of the Department of Political Science, so he is at home and comfortably with his engagement. Other principal officers of the university are everybody here. We have our Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Jideofor Patrick Adibe, here present. We have the Chief Scribe and Registrar of the Nasarawa State University, Malam Malaya the second present. We have the University Bossa, Malam Mutala Abubakar, and of course the University Nigeria, Dr. Ajaokuta Steel Project. The inaugural lecture is chaired through a committee, and the chairman of the committee is here, Professor O.G. Jideofor. Our chairman, you're welcome, and thank you for all the energy you always put through for the success of the lecture. One of our committee members who is starting with the responsibility of taking us through the citation of our presenter is equally here seated as today's orator. We have Professor Eugene Alebo. Let me speak for the importance of the next person to be introduced, who is a leading leader in this university and other universities in Nigeria, and has kept faith with the growth of this university. A former Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, who served at another university to see his growth. Here seated is our dear Professor Muhammad Noma, former Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University. Other members of the university committee who are regional leaders and equally those who are holding various leadership positions in this university are here and you are welcome to today's event. Our dear Vice Chancellor, that I welcome to the podium for welcome address, the Chairman, Inaugural Lecture Committee, Professor O.G. Jideofor for his welcome address. You're welcome, sir.
On behalf of Nasarawa State University, Keffi, it is my distinguished pleasure and honor to welcome you all to our 46th Inaugural Lecture. On behalf of Professor Ajaokuta Lima, the first ever female Vice Chancellor of our great university and the chairman of this occasion. Under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Ajaokuta Lima, she has provided dynamic leadership to our university and has achieved within a short time remarkable results. Our approach to leadership is characterized by setting clear goals and rallying teams to work diligently towards their achievements. This focus on results has propelled us as an institution to new heights in education and research, reinforcing our institution's commitment to academic excellence. Moreover, our forward-thinking approach has positioned our university as a trailblazer in higher education in Nigeria. Our embrace for innovation and technology and visionary strategies to anticipate and adapt to evolving landscape of education has allowed us to navigate challenges with resilience and confidence. Under our leadership, we are continually pushing boundaries of knowledge and we are achieving modest results. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, esteemed faculty members, enthusiastic students, and all our attendees this morning, who have graced us with their presence. Your participation has immense value to this event, and we truly honor and cherish your presence. This inaugural lecture is not just an event. It is a platform for intellectual exchange, where ideas are nurtured, knowledge is shared, and connections are forged. It symbolizes our dedication to fostering a culture of learning, innovation, and collaboration. Throughout the duration of this lecture, we will be privileged to hear from Professor Jideofor Patrick Adibe, whose expertise and insights promises to inspire us all with the lecture titled, "What Does Russia Really Want from Africa?" Interrogating Russia's awakening interest in Africa? This is a very dynamic question, especially at this time of the world events. I'm sure many of us want to listen and hear the answer to this very rhetorical question. I also want to welcome our audience to our other inaugural lecture series. Like I said, social media, like our pages and subscribe to them so that you will not miss our lecture series. Thank you for being part of this special occasion, and God bless you.
Our dear Vice Chancellor, very distinguished guests here present, we are making progress. Next, to invite our principal and leader, the Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, Keffi, for remarks.
Let me, on behalf of the VC, appreciate the presenter for coming to take up a discussion on a very topical issue. What does Russia really want from Africa? Maybe we'll also hear another version of the story. What does China want from Africa? There's another dimension to it. As a professor of international relations, we don't expect anything short of an excellent presentation from him. And as a friend, as a colleague, we know Professor Jideofor to be a very versatile scholar in all fields of linguistics. Is it political economy? Is it in the field of public policy analysis? Not to talk of international relations. So today, we're going to listen to an expert with a lot of experience. A writer, a journalist, a publisher, is all in one person. For those of us that are very close to him. You can see good representation even from the media angle. The media is showing the daily process here to also shine up. So this topic is going to be valuable intellectual discussion. And we should listen attentively to what he's going to tell us. In the field of international relations, nation states and international politics, nothing goes for nothing. You don't just venture into other countries because you have Father Christmas. China is all over Nigeria. Today, all over Africa. Why are they in Africa? I'm citing China as an example. Because certainly they have an interest to protect. So it is time to apply to Russia. We hear more details on the presenter. While on behalf of the VC, I want to assure the committee of the Inaugural Lecture Committee that the management of this university will continue to support this academic venture. The university is not supposed to be a barrier ground where activities doesn't take place. We have to stimulate intellectual discussion, and part of it is through inaugural lectures. Through this, we are able to showcase the university in terms of disability. Through lectures like this, we are exposing our professors so that you know our intellectual arsenals we have in university. And this program will be sustained and supported by the Vice Chancellor. So on behalf of the management and the over 40,000 students of this university, we welcome you to this important event. And we wish the presenter the best of luck.
We are going to take goodwill messages. We have a number of persons identified. Some are going to have theirs virtually, while some will be physical here present. We are going to start with one who is here present, who was mentored and packaged by our presenter, Dr. Ufuruna Sira Aziz, who is a career civil servant, former personal assistant to the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Niger Delta. She is one of his PhD candidates who is doing well and making our presenter proud. You're welcome, Madam. After Dr. Sarah, we are going to take one virtual from Professor Tunde Adeniran, who is the former Minister of Education and former Nigerian Ambassador to Germany.
It is my pleasure to present this goodwill message at this inaugural lecture, courtesy of my supervisor, my mentor, Professor Jideofor Adibe. And it's anchored on the topic, what does Russia really hold for Africa? What does Russia really want from Africa, sorry? Today's event marks yet another milestone of academic excellence. And the topic is thought-provoking and is geared towards stimulating views of international discourse, creating the much-desired transformation in African leadership. It is imperative to know that Russia's growing footprint in Africa is wide-ranging. The Soviet has perceived this continent, Africa, and they are trying to reserve it for their future socialism. They are trying to look at Africa as a trade hub, and they are also not looking back, knowing that Africa's vote in the United Nations is overwhelming. The quest for an outflow of natural resources has continued to increase their interest in Africa. It is of note that this ceremony is dedicated to honor one of the finest brain in Africa, one of the finest brain in our continent, and in Nigeria in particular, Professor Jideofor Patrick. And it's my interest to know that he supervised my MSc dissertation, he also supervised my PhD thesis, giving me all the much needed guidance that I need to come out bold and strong. Today, at this 46th lecture, we are celebrating our Prof groundbreaking research work. And we are also going to be highlighting a lot of his achievements in the field of his endeavor. I remember reading one of my distinguished Prof article that he dedicated to Nigerian as 64. He titled that article as Celebration in the Season of Enion. In that article, he was speaking, and I quote, he said, I revisited some of my articles I wrote over the last 15 years to commemorate on the years of independence. And I began to wonder whether there is still really any point writing anything new. My Prof, today I am telling you that the answer to this fundamental question you raised is a capital yes. You have to continue fighting for Africa. You have to continue fighting for Nigeria in particular. We believe that some of the students are going to be leaders of this great nation, Nigeria. So we are yearning to pass from the wealth of knowledge. So, sir, you have to continue writing, you have to continue putting in that which we know you for. And in doing that, most importantly, until Africa succeeds in eliminating the neo-colonial conglomerate multinational companies that are milking our resources, which I believe today we are going to dwell more on that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to enjoin all participants here in present to seize the opportunity of an in-depth erudition that will be discussed today. And we should ensure that we invite all the meaningful recommendations that will be introduced. We take them, advance them into our various fields of endeavor, and in doing that, we will merge it into a sustainable development, Nigeria in particular, and Africa at large. And as we do that, we know that we're going to move on to the next level. Once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this inaugural lecture, and I sincerely thank our host, Professor Jideofor Adibe, for this opportunity he gave to me, and I wish every participant a productive engagement. Thank you very much.
Nuclear academic and strategic studies. That is why I was so anxious and determined to be present at today's inaugural lecture. Unfortunately, because of the logistics, moving from experience to Nasarawa, the doctoral research safe outcomes. Let's send them the good message. My good message is unique because it will go to three targets. One is that we send congratulations to the inaugural lecturer, Professor Jideofor Patrick, a very diligent researcher. So this scholar who is very powerful in his writings and very broad, and of course, try to show more ways of looking at issues and taking them. Congratulations for that. The second is integration. Using this opportunity to the message of integration, particularly those that have been through the university system not too long ago. We are very active now in the various associations of the universities. To wake up and please redeem not just the university system, but the education system generally. And the third message I think is the excellent one. We are in a narrow decade of the 21st century. And what is happening, particularly in the brain and the East and all over the system, and the issues of neoliberalism, imperialism, too. The choice that we made, what was Russia empowers in Southern Africa, is a way of drawing attention. We look forward, if we look this time, to see how we can save this city from conflicts and real challenges that are really conflicting, and ensure that we have peace. And apart from having peace, that we have democracy and development. It is very important. We should bear this in mind because at the end of the day, whatever we do, we must bring support to humanity. And when we need to make the policy available to national development and international peace. Congratulations once again, Professor Jideofor Patrick. And it is my hope that the lessons to be learned, the messages to be taken away from here, to be taken away and utilized at various levels of our society, and particularly the policy makers and implementers at the national and international level. Congratulations once again, and I wish you well and future endeavors.
It's my pleasure and privilege to be here to associate the ancient kingdom of Ozobo, where this talent comes from, and to appreciate this great institution. Every talent needs a structured platform to operate. We have proudly produced Professor Adibe, but we didn't produce him as a professor, we produced him as a talent called Patrick Jideofor Adibe. This institution has molded him into the erudite professor he is today. And for that purpose, as a representative of Ozobo ancient kingdom from Anambra State, I want to appreciate this great institution for molding this talent into the erudite profession we are seeing today. Prof. Adibe did not just fall from the moon. He started his primary and secondary education from his background. And some of us who have known him for life will attest to the fact that what we are witnessing today is not just an accident. It's a structured plan that has brought us thus far. For that reason, we want to be grateful to God that as we stay together today to listen to this great son of Ozobo, that we are all proud to be associated with his Christ thus far, and we believe that this is just a stepping stone. We are not surprised that he has gathered us here. We know that by the grace of God, he will do even more. We want to assure this institution too that whatever it takes to support this our son, and that where you have started well, that you do not stop at any point. We will not disappoint you because he has not disappointed his background, and we know that with time there will be greater stories to be told about Professor Jideofor Adibe. This son of Ozobo has not shied away from discussion. He's a very stable discussant. Those who have steadily read his articles will attest to the fact that he does not run away from controversies. The Russian business is a controversial business. And vintage Professor Jideofor Adibe is not shying away from discussing Russia. Russia is not a child's play that every person will want to delve into today in the contemporary world story. But like our son, he has decided to get us into the controversy that Russia represents today. And we are sure that at the end of this exercise, we will all agree that Professor Jideofor Patrick has been molded not to have fear. And he discusses national issues with a lot of passion that does not come easily. And this is one of them. So what we want to reassure you today is that this great son is a product of long-term planning, and we are ready to continue to move with him wherever we find ourselves. There are a lot of also people that are represented in this hall today, and that testifies to the kind of character he is. In the midst of all serious academic work he undertakes, he does not shy away from even our communal activities. And that is, as the presentation we have today is a testament to the fact that he also thinks academic and thinks home. And I want him to continue to be fortunate that today a lot of our young ones, because of social media, are shy of reading. Anybody who has been following Professor Jideofor Patrick's write-ups about Nigeria, about the developments in the world, we know the kind of person this person is. But unfortunately, a lot of our young ones delve into social media and think that there is a shortcut to knowledge. Knowledge is not what you get by shortcut. Knowledge is a result of painstaking effort. He has made a lot of sacrifices, but we know that even as we are getting on today, more and more people will pick interest in actually reading. Since he discovered that I read his articles always, even those that I have done pass my way, he will chip it in for me to read. And I've gained a lot from his effort. On behalf of the good people of Ozugbo, Anambra State, and the entire Nigeria, I want to promise you to Professor Adibe that as your people, we will not leave you at any point. We will continue to be behind you and make sure that whatever you start even in our home will come to fruition by the grace of God. On behalf of my people, I want to encourage all of us to please listen to this great song and erudite professor. At the end of this exercise, we must have gained more knowledge than we add to what we have. Thank you, and God bless all of us.
My name is Professor Keffi, a professor of accounting at Bayero University, Kano, and a professor of translation at Prince Ajaokuta University, this state. I'm here to deliver a message and solidarity on the occasion of the Inaugural Lecture presentation by my very good friend, associate and brother, Professor Jideofor Adibe, who today presented the Inaugural Lecture on the topic, what does Tunisia actually want from Africa? That is a very good topic which may carry so many insights on the relationship between Tunisia and African countries. And of course, I'm sure the presentation will carry a lot of lessons our leaders should learn and the relation with Tunisia and other countries in the world. Professor Adibe has been a very good scholar and practitioner worthy of emulation by African scholars. Apart from the classroom teaching, publications in various newspapers and columnists, he has been a columnist for more than 10 years with Daily Prof and other newspapers in Nigeria. Apart from this, he has also established a publishing company, called Ottoman Empire Publishers Limited, since 2003. That company through publication of books and journals that are addressing African problems and finding solutions to these problems. So far, the company has produced more than 160 books on different topics. I myself, when I was the dean of the Position American Secretary University, Chicago, I led my faculty members to publish a book on poverty, and that is poverty in Nigeria, causes the resuscitation and strategic solution. And then I also published two books with the company. One on accounting, which was published some months after I left office at the Dean of the Faculty. And the other one is on time management international scholar, which I published when I was in sabbatical at the University of Tara, Malaysia. So the books that are being published by the company are normally authored by African scholars from all the 52 different African countries, encouraging them to do research and on the problem of Africa and then come up with solutions to the problem. So apart from book publication, the company is taking to journal publication. So far, the company has 27 journals addressing various topics related to African culture. And this journal are interested in highly rated databases. Several of the journals are in scope of database. And all of them are in English scholar and many other eminent databases. So the way they move around African countries to search for scholars and practitioners that serve as the editor-in-chief, reviewers, and many other contributors, goes to show that Professor Adibe is a true Africanist, somebody that all scholars and practitioners of African to be proud of. Adibe is somebody that is dominated by all the young scholars who are concerned about African development, not just individual countries like Nigeria. It's concerned not only about Nigeria, but the whole of the African country. All the time of my family members, friends and associates here, we congratulate the leaders for coming to us, giving the Inaugural Lecture today, and we congratulate the Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, the newly elected and appointed Vice Chancellor, Mr. Ajaokuta Steel.
Next, we are going to have one who is here on site with us, a personal friend and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, a retired CBN staff, and former chief of staff to the Imo State government, who is currently the chairman of Amad Microfinance Limited. My pleasure to invite Dr. Emmanuel Hakim over to the podium for his goodwill message. Shall we please clap for him as he does that?
I bring you greetings from the numerous friends of the lecturer. I want to say without sounding modest that Professor Jideofor Adibe has remained a blessing to humanity in several respects. I was so proud of him. So as we look forward to a session of bumper intellectual harvest, I wish to congratulate my good friend and associate, Professor Jideofor Adibe, on this occasion of his academic Ofala Festival. For those of you who are not from the Southeast, you may be wondering what an Ofala Festival is. An Ofala Festival is a highly celebrated and powerful occasion in the Southeast, usually undertaken by kings and the royalty. So by all measures, Professor Jideofor is an academic king, and today he has rolled out the drum to celebrate his intellectual prowess. We are therefore happy to be a part of this great event. Prof, my brother, you have remained an irreplaceable voice in the socio-political trajectory of this country, Nigeria. Though you are a professor of political science and international relations, you have always claimed not to be a politician. I want to beg to leave my reservations for another day, so that maybe the chairman of the Inaugural Lecture Committee may have to bring us back so that we find out the difference between a politician and a professor of political science. Let's leave it for another day for now. Your choice of topic is very thought-provoking, especially at this time when the mere thought of Russia is almost becoming the beginning of wisdom. We are therefore full of ears to hear from the oracle himself. My dear brother, Professor Adibe, you have remained an intellectual powerhouse, yet you are humble and unassuming. Your level of wide philanthropy, as alluded to by my brother Jifano Wai, and your quest for the service of God has remained a challenge to some of us. No wonder you have continued to soar like an eagle, and you remain unstoppable. A couple of years ago, I remember when much more than this university. So whatever you can, to hold on to him, please do that. On that note, I want to congratulate you, the Vice Chancellor, the faculties, and the students on this day, and for what God has done for you. And I want to thank everyone who has found time to come here this morning to come and share and drink from the fountain of knowledge of this great institution. May the Lord bless you, and thank you very much.
A good message through this channel to you, because I'm most unlikely to be there physically, which I apologize, because for Professor Adibe, it was a pleasure for me to listen to, and the part of the audience. Let me make the first point. One, that I congratulate the Nasarawa State University for continuing in the tradition of showcasing the research done by academics through inaugural lecture of professors. I think it is a good tradition. Well, as an old school teacher, I observed that unfortunately many people struggle to publish or perish and become professors, and that seems to be the end of their research, their toil, and their work. Unfortunately, the academic process assumes that once you become a professor, you will continue working in order to be professor knowledge, and that if you don't work hard, you will profess ignorance. Part of the problem we have in many Nigerian universities today is that when people become professors, they stop working, they reach the end. That's a dangerous thing. I thought I should raise this because this is an inaugural lecture, and the person we're talking about, as I'm sure in one or 2 minutes, is a very profuse writer, a workaholic, a multi-dimensional task force worker who actually continues to venture into different areas of life. I just want to assure you that unless we work very hard, even after we become a professor, we they suffer in the university. Some form of institutional sterility and institutional academic decadence. The whole system fails because in the no research, you cannot develop. And the essence of research and development has come to development in many other countries is that the universities has come to contributing to the process of knowledge. Takes its rightful place, actively contributing to development. I also like to point out that I can have 3 PhDs and yet the literate are not educated. Education, if I may paraphrase C.S. Lewis, is the ability to critically approach the civilization of the past, constructively contribute to the civilization of the present, and lay the foundations for the civilization of the future. And this means that you have to be part of that process. While you are providing, contributing to all the things that are necessary for a civilization to grow. This is where I found Professor Jideofor Adibe as a truly educated man. He has found himself in a setting in which, choosing his own career, he multiplies the impact of his knowledge to different sectors of the society to improve it. You cannot contribute to the civilization of the future by laying the foundation today if you don't work hard. I remember that my old teacher, mentor, academic giant in Africa, my respectable late Professor Ali introduced Jideofor to me 20 years ago. And since then, I have related in very stable life. And very few people, because of his outlook, quite obey as a man, but humble and decent.
Shall we please clap for this most organized goodwill message by a scholar of international repute? Our presenter is of the Department of Political Science and the Faculty of Social Science of this university. It is on this note that we shall be inviting the Dean to speak on behalf of that faculty, and finally take our leading leader, former Vice Chancellor of the Nasarawa State University, Professor Muhammad Akaru Benoman, as we make progress.
Professor Jideofor is the man of the moment. We are struggling with the department, and he came in as a scholar in international relations, making him a very important addition because he came and made the likes of Professor Modibo seated here and the others that we were also grooming to make the team at that time. In 2013, he approached me. Then I was serving as head of department. I don't know what was going around his thoughts. He approached me and said, "Head, I have so many things in my hands, and I'm thinking of leaving." I said, "What?" I opened my eyes. I said, "What? What I say?" Because at that moment, we were already working towards ensuring that we consolidate in his area, international relations. Because we were then poaching, bringing people from Jos to help in that area. Recall we brought Professor Galadima, we brought Professor A. Gambo, all of them to come and assist in that. And then he was planning to leave. I said, no, sir, you cannot leave, sir. You cannot leave us. Whatever it is, by the way, you are already about to become a professor. So how can we lose you? I think he heeded my thoughts, he heeded my advice, and stayed. And today we are proud to present to you a professor of 88 handling. So we thank you very much for heeding that thought and remaining around. He has associated with us so much in the department, and it has been said roundly here how he is a publisher. We know he owns Adonis and Abe. It's an international publishing house with an arm in the UK. As was stated, it's an in-depth journal. He has opened that up to the department and said that all of us can publish in that department, but guess what? To publish there, you have to get ready. Because he will not put his hands in the editing, in the assessment of that journal. You have to get ready to publish. Because all the papers, all the journals there are indexed, and most of them have made copies, just as Professor Dendeg was just mentioned. So that is a very important angle that he has assisted the department. He has also shown desire to help in endowing young ones, because he offered at a point that if we accept, he wants to set aside funds for younger undergraduates, the best students in international relations, to come and take his own award each year. So we applauded that. I think we wrote the university on that, that we want that to happen. And I think these are some of the qualities that make this scholar a real great. We thank you very much for all that you are doing in that faculty and in that department in particular. So let me just simply say that today's lecture on what Russia really wants in Africa, it's one of the areas that makes scholarship in the social sciences, makes scholarship in political science in particular, a very novel thing, a very interesting thing. So we are expecting, just like we expected and got in the previous lecture, we are expecting a thrill today in this particular lecture. So we welcome you all to this very important inaugural lecture, just as you sit back and listen to Professor Jideofor. We thank you very much.
Indeed, it is a rare privilege to stand before you this afternoon to appreciate the university. Even though I'm still part and parcel of the university, but this is an opportunity to say, well done, Nasarawa State University. It is not easy. There are older universities that cannot match this feat. And like we have said before, the Vice Chancellor promised that before she leaves, it is going to reach the 100. So we are counting. And with the pace we are going, I want to believe we will make the mark. And let me appreciate the Faculty of Social Sciences. Indeed, you are coming up. It's not easy, and I want to see you in beating Faculty of Science. Let me appreciate the lecturer and say that my understanding of inaugural lecture is in the word inaugural, introducing new academic uniqueness, generating ultimate researches and legacies. If you ask me, what is it that is going to answer this narration? I will tell you, it's about alliances between Africa and Russia. It is about diplomacy. It is about interdependence. It's about balance and equity, and gives you a debate. I'm just trying to see whether I can be educated, because Prof said it is not about getting degrees, but it's about knowing other things. I'm an accountant. I'm not a political scientist. So maybe you should appreciate the fact that I'm just trying to be educated. But supposing if I don't do this, the registrar will give me a query even without the approval of Mr. Vice Chancellor. Supposing we look at the presentation, and if at the end of the day you do not come to this conclusion, then you will say that I have failed. What Jideofor Adibe is going to present to you is just imagine different engagements or fraternity of Russia, Africa's destiny is best explained. I welcome you to this lecture.
It makes sense to begin a presentation like this by first expressing gratitude to all my who made it possible for all of us to see this day and I was still able to enter secondary school at the age of 12, 13, 14, and to reach secondary school at 18, go to the university, graduated at 22, did my youth service, went back, did another 1 year of masters, making it to graduating at 24. And then there was a period of anger. What people call Japan now, so in 1988 I left for Denmark. 1989 I started a program, did my doctorate in Denmark. I was actually the first to complete a PhD in that department, and I was able to do it. So that's how we did. Don't worry. What's this funny? Even though I got a PhD, I submitted a paper. I still did not get to become a professor until I was 65. That was because I had other things. I just had lost interest in academics. I just had lost interest in academics, and that was why both Alemans and brothers are trying to persuade me to go back to academics. I was reluctant. If you take into consideration from 1970 when I started education until I submitted the first one in 1991, it was 21 years. And all I had known was the summer. So I was brought out. When I went to Canada to do a postdoc. All the people I knew in 1994, they were coming back and calling themselves internet consultants. And what was it to be an internet consultant? To show people how to surf. To use to get browser and surf on the internet. Just, that's what it was. So when I returned to Denmark, I decided to go back. I said, I wasn't sure this, I wasn't really sure this was me. I applied and got a position to do conversion to MSc conversion program in computer science at the University of Kent in Cambridge. Of course, I couldn't finish because I couldn't crack the Pascal program. But then we made some reasons so hard to do. So that's how I went to school. But now the second thing is how did I study political science? In secondary school in those days, if you are said to be smart and arts inclined, the society expects you to read more. If you are science inclined, they expect you to read medicine or engineering. I think I will start doing more than I've done it because until I finished, I think it was only 2 occasions I did not take for solution in school. But because I couldn't stand blood, medicine disqualified itself. So I was expected to be a lawyer, to read more. When we got our done for, my first choice was law, my second choice was law. But then something happened. I was a big fan of James Hadley's novels. And I came across one of the novels called A Notice on the Floor. And this novel was set in Saigon, and the main character was Jeff, an American boxer. So it's something that guy got a photograph of a Vietnamese dancer and hanging it on the wall. He put out to the front wall and collapsed, and diamonds, gems. And the boxer said, wow, all my life I've been dreaming of big box, and that's the one. But the servant, when Mr. Hen said, no, you must return it to the states. That this thing belongs to the states. They return it to the states, they will give you honors. The church was saying, what am I doing with honors? And when they found that there was no way you complete 6 months, and that was the sentence that changed my life. He says, he just suddenly realized that this man is a supporter of the regime, and that twice a week he goes to attend courses in political science. So I immediately made this man a prophecy to the fact that he was studying political science. And I not submitted my JAMB form. I just went and cancelled law and put political science first choice, political science second choice. So that's why I went to study political science. And of course, as I told I had an academic, after I mentioned, after finishing my PhD and going to Canada, there was a period of academic. And people are talking about what is political science and all this kind of stuff. So, first of all, I went to, as I said, I tried to read the conversion program in computer science. It didn't work out. I took courses from Center for Continuing Education at Oxford University, studying Greek. That was in 2007. I took an accredited course, and later I did a master's degree in media law at City University of London. So one of the things that happened in this period was that when I was in the UK, I revived my passion of trying to be a novelist. That was my higher passion as an undergraduate. I had the record of most rejected suits in Longman, Lambridge, and Principal series. So when I went to the UK, I revived that ambition to be a novelist. And I got to hear from, I submitted a novel called Broken Bridge, the African Writer Series. I am an African Writer Series. And I was told it was not very good reviews, that there was a good chance I was going to be published. So in my opinion, I thought it was a document. One day I came back home and got this nice envelope from my mom. And when I opened it, it was rejected. So I got so frustrated. I was writing for a paper there, not as if they told me Africa. So I just decided to go outside and see Papa and Papa, who was my friend at the time. And just in the process of talking, I told him, maybe to console myself, I'm just trying to set up a publishing company. It was a casual remark. The next issue of that magazine, the inside one page, has a caption with my photograph, New Home for African Writers. Mentioning that I was going to set up a publishing company. Because of the remark. So I knew that my manuscript that was rejected as the first one, and the ambition was simply to publish knowledge. As fate would have it, I was also introduced a guy called Mamu, Professor Mamu, who was an Ethiopian Africanist. I used to call him Lion of Judah because of the way he carried himself. And if he was giving a lecture, he criticized Africa, was teaching them at the University of Brussels. If you critique Africa too much, you just can't listen to some rules. So that's how, at that point also, there was, we call it the period of Afro-pessimism. Because one newspaper in the UK, probably was talking about African inheritance. And one newspaper in the UK was saying, mocking the idea and saying, when did Africa have these matters? What to talk about the inheritance? So in the fires, we published our second book, which was called by Manu, the making of the African nation. And before you know it, we have become an academic publishing house. The following year, we set up African Renown as a journal. We used it not just as a journal, it was a big academic. We used it, to hold a soldier for Africa, to report it, to answer all questions all suggestions that Africans are not capable of democratic initiatives or development. So, one of the things happening there was that the very why we basically will be time we did this by imagine, a few things happened. But I don't know how close to our animals that everybody introduced to Professor Adibe. And as I said, it was Professor Adibe who eventually introduced me to the university. Okay, so the next question was, why would I not want to talk on why West African relations? Why do I want to talk about what Africa? The first is that in 2013, I was part of a formality commission by Africa Growth Initiative at the institution to study the impact of companies on that development in Nigeria. So when we went to the US, Washington DC, to make our presentation, for some reasons my presentation found favor the Google institution, so they asked me to write something for Foresight Africa, which was a flagship publication. Every year, Google institution publishes Foresight Africa, and they use it to make statements on the arts of Africa. So they asked me to write. That was in 2014. And I selected the topic, or rather they gave me the topic, to write on the then forthcoming 2015 presentation. So when I wrote it, when it was published, the country was set on fire. While the people of the Jonathan camp were excited, people of the other camp were calling me and threatening my life, threatening people. So we say, you are not even a professor, but you still not a professor. You are not even a professor, and you are not, if you are that smart, why are you not teaching me? University. But then, because it turned out to be the most read article in Google for several months, if you go to Google's institution website today, you see, and one of the few Africans dedicated blog on what my publication, they will ask me to comment on this and that. So one of the things they asked me to write on was to write a report on the first Russia-Africa summit, which took place in Sochi in 2019. So one of the issues I wrote there was Africa summit in 2019. I entitled the list, what was Russia really want from Africa? And it was published in November 2019. It was not surprising that the article attracted public interest, including countries. Whatever you publish on Google, you are guaranteed a global audience. So I was virtually interviewed by most of the leading media houses. So I think in 2021, Chatham House, we know Chatham House because our politicians went there to validate themselves. In 2021, I was again invited by Chatham House. Another way was to present a Zoom workshop. To present a Zoom workshop in the organized of July 15 of that year on Russia's sub-Saharan African independence. I titled my presentation, What is Driving Russia's Renewed Interest in Africa? Again, in 2022, I was again invited by the Bristol-based International Relations. This is regarded as the #1 international relations platform in the world. So he invited me and asked me to write on the impact of the Russo-Ukraine war, the war that was going on in Ukraine, to write on how it impacts on Africa, and to project on how the world will look like at the end of the war and where Africa will be without. The subsequent, I entitled my piece, The Russo-Ukrainian War, War's Impacts, Africa and the New World War. This was published as an open access article in December 2022. Another reason I chose this, you can see I've had a journey with this Russia thing, including several media interviews since 2019. Given that I'm a professor of international relations, the topic offers me an opportunity to illustrate and synthesize my thoughts on various aspects of international relations, international economic relations, foreign policy analysis. So it is not just about that topic per se when you're doing about the number, but you use it to tell the story of your academic topic. For example, while discussing the economic impact of the Russo-Ukrainian war on Africa, if you are discussing it, it is also an excursion into international economic relations, big power politics, and the use of And that is happening because of the consequences of the globalization of markets. Because of the and the bombardment. So basically, the topic of us the opportunity to tell the story of international relations, including diplomatic history, system polarity, foreign policy analysis, big power politics, and what does Kenya and American political science called the game station. So I'll then use the next 17 minutes or so to quickly run through what I rely mostly doing this on several sources of information to gather my materials, books, journals, internet blogs. I use both inductive and deductive reasoning to draw inferences. For what you can call theory, I use a historical approach and draws from theoretical frames as Truman Doctrine. Truman Doctrine was negotiated in 1947, and simply the message was, anywhere you see Russia trying to expand, it becomes part of America's foreign policy. So if you use that Truman Doctrine, you can legitimately pose a question whether the Ukrainian war was a setup for Russia that has started projecting forward to the sea, but it's a setup to compare Russia. So this my profile has already mentioned, and number of solar texts is 16 to stand for a very university. I tell you that my total scholars are from sunset, was also ranked as a so in the past these are all already mentioned extraordinary professor, guest lecturer, external examiner, university of London, and the rest of it. Community service, let me also mention that Professor Shehu Abdullah Jiwa and the last of this committee, and I was a backpage following the nation, except CNN. I don't think there's any other media house in the world that has not interviewed me. I'm a very language from such a Nigerian channels as private channels and NIT, and I founded that in 2003 as the nation. I just want to put the company is a publishing partner with a breadth of science and research, which qualifies it for good for good citation areas. Two of our books are best and web of science. Then there's a risk amount of use quotation. One of the quotations about our company says, by having a London address, by publishing work by academics based in Nigeria and across the Nigerian diaspora, and by ensuring global distribution of interest, Ajaokuta Steel Project has managed to bridge the global gap. It is a gap that other Nigerian universities need to cross. This is from a professor in Oxford, published in Cambridge. And then another one, another review will say something like lecturers. Usually it's become common that once they talk about scholarly publishing, they will mention us. But initially I was excited about that. But after a while I started asking myself, after a while I started asking me, am I become another constitutional? In 1952, the constitutional became the first African to publish a novel in English outside Africa. It was published by Feather and Feather. And the title of the novel was called "How Wine Drink Cat." So they heard of that, but after a while, Nigerian scholars and writers became very angry because they said the Mosquito was writing in innocent English. Later they changed it to baby English. Then the fact was that it was not a educated man. You can see, they called it a white drinker, not a drinker. So, was that really being set up the way the Mosquito was hyped? In order, as some people believe, to radical Africa. If you look, we publish only 57 journals, and they call us a champion in Africa. We are not really an African company. One company alone in UK publishes 2,500 journals. So we say, well, we don't want to grow for a the framework of Africa, and then I'll look at the map in Africa and draw my conclusions. So, I'll say any contact between Russia and African countries can be traced to the late 18th century when the Russian Empire sought support from the rulers of Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia in its competition with the Ottoman Empire. Following from this, diplomatic relations were established with Tunisia as early as 1869, followed by Morocco, Ethiopia, with later the Inaugural Republic. If you come to Nigeria, you can see we were all started in the 90s, very early after we got independence. So, another thing to mention there was that, and I don't have a lot of time, after the communists came into Russia, that initial excitement cooled down, and then later came up again when they started to support the anti-colonial struggles in Africa. And the reason was that a book by Lenin published in 1917, Imperialism at the highest stage of what's that again? The highest stage of capitalism. He tried to make the struggle of the people of the colonies. He said, this is part of process of capital accumulation. And it is not different from what we are experiencing in Russia about those capitalist elements that were constantly trying to resist Russia. And then there was the Comintern Communist International in 1919 deciding that we are going to support people of the colony. So that became, invigorated relationship. But up and down. Okay, the first Russia-Africa Summit, as I said, it was held in 1991. And then after Russia imploded, after Soviet Union imploded, there was a period of uncertainty. Russia, for a long time was isolationist, dealing with its own internal problem until Putin came to power on 31st December 1999. So by 2000, Russia has started again to try to recapture old glory. Putin project power into the global scene. And so, with the emergence of Putin first as acting president in 1990, there were noticeable efforts by Russia to claim the lost throne. One of these was the effort to reactivate old alliances for new wars in Africa. So, the first Russia-Africa summit was held. So, during the summit, many Africans, 43 African heads of state or government, along with dozens of business and community leaders, attended. So, another reportage during that time, that first summit, one of the things that Russia did was to remind African leaders that they never colonized any part of Africa. And to remind them that unlike the West, that they treat them like equals. So, and that reminded, I mentioned so many books, a number of books where Africans said they were being demonized. One of the ones I would actually recommend to anybody who has the time was called Manufacturing Hate. How Africa was demonized in Western India by American Animal. So, in that first Russia-Africa summit, beyond the smash issue of unity and camaraderie of newfound love and Sochi, the first Russia-Africa summit raised several stipulations and very interesting questions. One fundamental issue raised by the Russia-Africa summit was how Africa's traditional allies, especially the United States, will respond to Russia's newfound love. And that's why the whole doctrine of human doctrine came around. That once there is projection of power by Russia, especially during the Cold War, it became an article of faith for America to try to contain it. So the second Russia summit, we moved to the second one, which was initially to be held in Addis Ababa, but later was held in St. Petersburg. Some of the key takeaways, I believe, from that was one of the legal questions in the various summits said was whether partner summits whether they added any value at all. The second message Russia wanted to communicate, in my opinion, then was to let them know that despite the Ukraine war, life was going on normally in Russia. So it has ended by only some students of state participated compared with 43 who attended the first summit. The summit also provided an opportunity for Putin to make amends for his alleged shabby treatment of African leaders. Part of Mbeki of South Africa had led a group for an African initiative on how to end the Ukrainian war. And the meeting did not go well because Putin revolted. But the second summit was an opportunity for him to make an amendment, which he did. So I then came to Russia's renewed interest. And I started this by looking at the rise of Putin's Russian politics. Because we cannot talk about Russia's renewed interest in Africa today and across the world without talking about the rise of Putin. So Putin was regarded the inclusion of Soviet Union as his great mistake. So when Boris Johnson appointed, when he became the acting president in December 1999, it was just a matter of time that he started to project power into the global space. And I mentioned how he was alternating with Medvedev. There's no time to be rushing many of this. When Putin first came, many of the West, they approved of him. In fact, George W. Bush said he had taken looked the man in the eye and found him very straightforward and forthright and gotten a sense of his soul. But then something changed. The relations with the West, however, deteriorated after over the 2004 expansion into 7 East European countries and over pro-Western uprisings that broke up in Georgia. Furthermore, Putin was urged by US lobbying to bring Georgia and Ukraine to NATO. So in 2014, as tensions escalated over Ukraine, Russia was expelled from the group of 8 industrialized nations. That was in 2014 that it annexed the Crimea. He also influenced the West by granting asylum to the US whistleblower Edward Snowden. He was also suspected of interfering in the 2016 US presidential election by greenlighting a computer hacking operation. So from accepting him, they began to go their different ways from 2014. So we now pose the question, what does Russia really want from Africa? The first one is, Russia was a superpower during the Cold War. When the Soviet Union imploded in 1991, it had a lot of internal problems and became more or less like a third world country. So Putin was credited with bringing order to the chaos that was Soviet Union, and then started down to rebuild all alliances. So the first ambition is now wants to start projecting power onto the global stage. And again, if you follow the Truman Doctrine, if you want to know if it is applied, once it starts projecting power, you have to watch on how the other side was responding. The first was projecting power on the global stage. Since African countries constitute the largest voting bloc in the United Nations, Russia probably figured out that the continent's support will be strategic in amplifying its position in the United Nations and its agencies, especially the United Nations General Assembly, where decisions are taken by two-thirds majorities. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in fact, former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, had openly accused Russia of selling arms to African countries in exchange for votes at the United Nations. And you can see U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken accused Russia of exploiting conflict hit and few vulnerable African countries in the Sahel region, and said he was telling Africans, we are better partners, and says the United States was a better security partner for the continent than Russia. So what then you can say again is a kind of scramble for Africa, scramble for the favor of Africa. So second is accessing Africa's raw materials, natural resources and investment opportunities. Much of Russia's focus in Africa centers on energy. Several Russia's investment in Africa in the oil, gas, and nuclear power sectors. So it probably reckons that 620 million people in Africa that don't have electricity, which is an opportunity for them to provide nuclear power industry with potential markets. So you can see several Russian companies such as Gazprom, Lukoil, Rosatom, many of them are active in Africa. So if you go down, I give several examples. The Algerian Ministry of Industry, the Russian firm Rosatom in Ethiopia, Ethiopian Russian business forum was telling Russians, look, we are tired of the West, we are waiting for you to come in. So in South Africa, the Communist National Oil Company, PETROSA, has been Russia's Gazprom Bank Africa, has taken it as its preferred investment partner. So this is just about peaceful investment opportunities. And then more importantly is arms exports. By the way, Russia is the second largest exporter of arms in the world behind the US. So data by Stockholm International Department Institute, a global research tracker, showed that between 2018 and 2020, Russia overtook China as the leading arms supplier to sub-Saharan African countries, with a market share of 26%, compared to 21% over the previous period. Again, a 2024 report for the European Parliament noted that Russia has concluded military cooperation agreements with 43 African countries, and is a major though declining arms supply. I say declining because of the sanctions. Russia is of course the world's second largest exporter of weapons. Russia arms, why African countries attracted the Russian arms? They are attracted to African leaders because besides being relatively cheap, deals with Russia are not often held up by human rights concerns cited by other countries like France and the US. For instance, when the US was dilly-dallying on selling arms to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram in 2014 on allegations of human rights abuses, Nigeria turned to Russia and was able to place an order for 12 attack helicopters. Are you giving me the extension? The order was placed in September and deliveries began in 2016. Another one, setting new streams of oil supply is not just enough, but they want new streams, not just existing streams. So Russia wants to use this mostly state oil and gas companies to create new energy supply streams. You can see, for example, in 2018, Nigerian oil and gas exploration company Chronicle Petroleum said it will be cooperating with Russia's largest oil producer known as Rosneft to develop 21 oil assets across African countries, 17 African countries. I gave quite a number of examples of how they are doing this. More important is that Russia has never hidden its ambition of pursuing a multipolar world. Putin has not left anyone in doubt that he opposed to the current Western-dominated world system and seeks to the creation of a multipolar world in which Russia will be the member or one of the main alternatives to the Western system. Putin uses the grouping of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which was expanded in 2023 to include Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, and United Arab Emirates to pursue this. In fact, my column yesterday was on the idea that Nigeria has become a partner country to BRICS. And I questioned what was the strategic objective. Nothing unlike the first one, just to have more numbers, to have to be a counterweight to G20, and part of the idea of creating an alternative. Russia's influence in BRICS is enormous, and the inclusion of South Africa in this influential body can be viewed in the context of Russia endearing itself to the continent, and through South Africa getting more footing in Africa. So the inclusion of 3 African countries in the influential body, they are 3 now: South Africa, Ethiopia, and Egypt, could be seen in the context of Russia trying to endear itself. Putin also enthusiastically supports Africa, having at least a permanent seat in the US Security Council. Another one is showing the effects of sanctions. The Russian war to fail, which began in February 2022 and subsequent confrontation with the West, and the imposition of sanctions have put the spotlight on the African continent. So, America is fighting China over trade. America and Russia are loggerheads. So, African countries are not taking position in the fight between China and the US. They are also sitting on the fight between Russia and Ukraine. In other words, they are positioning themselves as the beautiful brides to be ruled by both sides. And this is exactly what man is trying to do by, he tries now to come in. The effects of those sanctions now, for example, one of the things they want to do was to create an alternative to SWIFT. This is a sanction for all the Western messaging system, like when you use your credit card. it goes through a messaging system. And Russia doesn't benefit from it now. And if you look at one of the pronouncements of BRICS in the last meeting in Russia, it was to create an alternative system that will bypass that messaging system. So part of the end is therefore to use Africa to bypass the effects of sanctions. So what will be the implications of Africa's deepening involvement? I said if Russia should renew interest in Africa and Western America's waning interest in the continent, it will offer both threats and opportunities. There is, for instance, the possibility that Africa's traditional allies may try to undermine Russia's initiative on the continent, and vice versa. Similarly, the awakening interest of Africa's traditional allies in the continent presents an opportunity for African countries to play the two powers against each other for their own benefits. And that's what they're trying to do. So each time, for example, one side does something, you have somewhere to do. When America says because of human rights concerns we are not going to give you arms, they turn to Russia. And by turning to Russia, recently they got from America. So you have room now to maneuver. So I will jump this, but it's important to understand that Russia and China also compete, but they cooperate in Africa. They cooperate by the syllogism that a crucial question is whether the apparent cooperation between China and Russia in Africa will turn into an advanced competition. One of the potential areas of discourse is the area of providing security for the continent, and that's where one comes in. In the next one, I'll let you 2 minutes to round up by discussing one. In the paper, I discussed in detail how such possibility could happen. In Central African Republic, there were, for example, some Chinese people that were killed. And the suspicion was that it was from the Wagner group. You know, Wagner group, as I see in the next section. So there's a possibility for conflict and collaboration. So I mentioned that South Africa brought China and Russia together in a war game. Imagine South Africa together with Russia and China in a war game, and that alarmed the West. This Trans-Saharan gas pipeline is probably one of the reasons why there was intense pressure on Nigeria to attack Niger when there was a coup, because there was a threat. So that pipeline, Nigeria was supposed to get out of that 4,128 kilometers, 1,030 all the devices to try to coerce Nigeria to go to war. So African countries have produced natural resources, that we are affected with others to life. I say one way African countries can show that they have learned this lesson in what is happening is not by just diversifying their dependence, depending on Russia and depending on the US, but by pushing for greater commitment to the Pan-African payment and settlement system. You can see Russia was immediately removed from the SWIFT. And because it was removed from the SWIFT payment, you can't use MasterCard and all that. So you need to develop an alternative away from the dollar. And that was one of the things Exim Bank was trying to do with Pan-African payment and settlement system. If you now can learn the lesson that what happened to Russia can happen to you, it becomes a motivation for you now to move to developing an alternative payment system that will not be dependent on the Western system. So one of the things they found on the was that it was a disruption of Africa's recovery from COVID-19. Before the pandemic, many African economies were among the fastest growing globally, with improvement recorded in human development index. I see a lot of protests. I mentioned countries that were experiencing protests, including our bad government protests, which began on August 1 and formally ended on August 10, 2024. So in Ghana, there were also protests, in Egypt, there were protests. And there was a Russian deal with several African countries to be under threat because of that war. And the food supply, the war has affected food supply chain in Africa, especially regarding wheat and sunflower products. And then the cost of fertilizer, as I said, the cost of fertilizer has moved to the high ends. The impact of students studying in Ukraine, many of them that see it do not even get. Students studying, those who fled the war in Ukraine, especially medical students, some of them were offered places in Grenada and Portland, where the vast majority said they could not even get their transcripts, and many of them were stranded. Again, how will it affect North American competition? Here again, I came back to the human doctrine. Will it lead to a new Cold War? And that's what one of my conclusions I hope. And then I say that the war will end, one day it will end, no matter how long it lasts, it's going to end one day. So however long it lasts, the war will inevitably one day end, and most likely are not negotiating it. Even if by accident it escalates into a third world war. Its impact on Africa or Russia will largely depend on how the end of the war affects the current system polarity or distribution of power in the global system. If Ukraine successfully turned to become Russia's version of Vietnam, what we say Vietnam, the Vietnam War lasted from 1955 to 75. America got bombed into it for 20 years. America defeated the Vietcongs in every battle, they lost the war. And when the war ended, America's morale was so low that they did not want any international engagement. So we are suspecting that if Ukraine comes out, if Russia is seen as a victor, then it will continue this projection of power into the global space. But if it's seen as being defeated, then Ukraine will have become its Vietnam. In fact, some of us believe that following the human doctrine, that the whole Ukraine war was a trap in which Russia fell into. And if it's done, there's no way Ukraine will defeat Russia. Is it possible? The worst that could happen in my estimation is because Russia's equivalent of Vietnam. So if Ukraine is successfully turned to become Russia's version of America's Vietnam, it will contain Russia's resurgence as a world power under Putin and drive it to a new set of self-doubt, akin to what happened after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So among other things, the world severely the Vietnam whites have said, damage the US economy and weaken the morale of its president. So a crucial question here is whether the end of America's massive support for Ukraine in this war with Russia was to checkmate Russia's increasing projection of power onto the global system. That is a very important question the world seeks to revive the human doctrine. I also mentioned that the question of many analysts, they do not want to look at it was whether Africa is sufficiently positioned to absorb refugees from the West in the event of the Ukrainian war escalating into World War III. Though this possibility seems remote and undesirable, it will not be out of place for Africa to engage in scenario mappings that will include this option. If we think it's unlikely, during the COVID-19, some American tourists were in Tanzania, they should go back. Which means that there is a possibility that we should start building a scenario that will include possible influx of refugees in the event of the Ukraine war by accident turning into a world war. I wanted to do a quick appraisal of Wagner Group, which is right and good. The Wagner Group, which is a private limited company, because I mentioned it, everybody knows the Wagner Group now. During the NSUK governance conference, you see our young people were, asking the Wagner Group to come. I gave the history of the Wagner Group, how it came about, and mentioned that it's not a single entity. In 2023, the US government designated it as a significant transactional criminal organization. I mentioned that in Africa since 2017 we became very active in several African countries, especially Central African Republic, Libya, Mali, Sudan, Burkina Faso, Niger, all of which have problematic relationship with the West. In 2017, for example, the Wagner Group used 500 men to put down local uprisings against the government of Sudan in exchange for exclusive mining rights in the country. I met previously the leader mentioned how he died, and he now at the point was leading a rebellion to Russia, which is strengthened rather than weaken Wagner in Africa. They actually strengthen it. They point out, for example, there's one thing the Russians offer that is very attractive to African leaders, and that is what they call regime protection package. Regime protection package. In the West, doesn't offer. So, and in fact, one institute in Poland said it has found that the influence of Wagner has been increasing in Africa. And we saw it in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso. So basically, contrary to some belief that if Prigozhin dies, Wagner will be affected, Wagner seems to be vastly strong. Some people say it might be renamed, but many African countries dealing with Wagner, they don't differentiate between Wagner and Russia. Because Wagner became the tool of Russian foreign policy. I would say one of the functions of Wagner is that it offers Russia what we call plausible deniability. So if it goes wrong, it will deny. So let's look at the conclusion. Sorry about your time. The study discusses the academic learning international relations using the principle of also African relations. As I say, it does this from a historical perspective. That's why I was telling you to with particular focus on what Russia wants to happen. The following are the key findings. Number one, Russia's relations with Africa date as far back as the late 18th century, when the Russian Empire sought support from the rulers of Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia in its confrontation with the Ottoman Empire. This relationship blossomed during the independence struggle by African countries and relaxed after the creation of the Soviet Union in 1991, when the country apparently engulfed in an identity crisis. When the country apparently engulfed in an identity crisis went into isolation. Russia's renewed interest in Africa is part of its attempt to project power on the global stage under Putin to create a multipolar world. Number two recommendation. It is in its renewed interest in Africa. Russia wants access to Africa's raw materials as a security guarantor for each African partners using the private military company Wagner. The key recommendation: Africa should not see Russia's renewed interest in the continent as an opportunity to diversify its independence, but rather as a chance to pursue truly non-aligned and sustainable policies that will benefit its people. 2. The threats from Russo-African war also embed opportunities for the continent. For example, it presents an opportunity for the continent to look more inward in developing its agriculture and food supply chains. The Western sanction against Russia, in which Western payment systems like Visa and MasterCard announced the suspension of their network services in Russia, should warn African leaders that such fate will befall them if they fall out of line. This should ideally make them more committed to the Pan-African payment and settlement system, a cross-border financial market infrastructure launched by the African Development Bank (AFDB) to facilitate payment transactions across Africa without reliance on the US dollar and the Western payment systems. We should equally push them towards better commitment to the African Continental Free Trade Area, established in 2018 to boost inter-African trade. 4. And lastly, regarding the impact of the Russo-Ukraine war on Africa, a question many analysts have shied away from asking is whether Africa is sufficiently positioned to absorb refugees from the West in the event of the Ukraine war escalating into third world war. How can this happen? It can happen because under the NATO Charter, an attack on one person is an attack on all. So if by mistake, if Russia is pushed to the wall and by mistake attacks one NATO member, it becomes an attack on NATO. And World War III will develop us. So I said, though this possibility seems remote and undesirable, it will not be out of place for Africa to engage in scenario mappings that will include each option. So Russia's provision of regime survival packages for countries under its sphere of influence, which some African states seem to prioritize over potential gains of their traditional Western allies, means that even if a new structure emerges to replace the structure of blackness I mentioned, it is unlikely to fundamentally alter Moscow's current position on the continent. In other words, we have to be prepared that Russia is the boss. This means being creative on how to benefit from the competition between the big powers in the continent. Thank you very much.
My name is Chief Dennis Anawai, Ugoneche of Ozobo. I'm here in respect of this inaugural lecture because Professor Adibe is from my hometown, Ozobo in Anambra State. I didn't expect anything less. It was such a robust one, and those who know him enough know that they wouldn't have expected anything less. He's an intellectual of repute, and when such people speak, you listen because there's always a message from a robust discussant. He's somebody who has discussed at international forum, and you wouldn't expect anything less. I'm proud to associate with the guest lecturer today. One, he's a brother. Two, he has been an associate for a while, and I can only be proud to be associated with him.
My name is Dr. Emmanuel Ohakim. I'm a management consultant, certified banker, and a former CBN executive. This lecture has opened a new horizon in international relations. You know, Professor Jideofor has been a very strong voice in the socio-political landscape of Nigeria, and today has brought to the fore the impact, especially the hidden facts behind Russia's relationship with African countries. And you know, the world being a global village, everything seems to be running around. And as Africans, we cannot afford to close our eyes to developments all over the world. So this inaugural lecture has been very instructive, it has been very educative, it has been very enriching. And there are a lot of takeaways for our policymakers, for our political leaders, not just in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. So we are very happy to be a part of this intellectual harvest.